The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, aka the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
Welcome everybody at Exit Team Nashua. My name's Jessie and I will be your host this evening. Tonight in the studio we have Mr. Jacob Howard. How you doing?
Good, and you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm actually happy to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, you're a repeat guest, but not for me.
Exactly.
So, right.
New to this host.
Yes. And I'm excited because I've never really heard your story too. So I love when someone comes in and I don't really know them. So it's really authentic, you know.
Exactly.
So you're not only getting, the audience is getting to know you, but so am I.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So tell me about you, you know. You're a Manchester boy?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually grew up in Bedford, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Which is the town right next to Manchester. And it's like known for being snobby, high class, money. I moved to Manchester when I was 16. Been there ever since for the most part. Grew up in Bedford, and I mean, it was what it was. It was definitely a rich town, good school system. Played sports, like basketball was my thing throughout, like all through high school, all through like grade school. Had a good family. My parents were together until I was about 16.
Mm-hmm.
Older sister, younger brother. I guess like growing up, I always had the misfit, like internal condition.
Mm-hmm.
Which manifested itself in like smoking pot. That was like the first thing that I ever dabbled with. I started smoking weed. For me, it was always a thing like, all right, I tried weed, I liked weed, and I'm going to sell weed too, you know? So it was always the next step. It's like, I got in a fight in school, I'm getting suspended, now I want to fight everybody. That's the thing. Anything that was cool that took me out of myself or made me fit in, it kind of helped my internal condition.
Kind of like took it on as your identity a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
A badass.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I gotta embrace this.
That was it gave me an identity, exactly like you said. It made me think that I was cool, that I fit in, that I was somebody. It's who I was. I stayed in I hated school. I'm dyslexic. So like I was always in like success or skills or sped classes, they'd call it. So I definitely had a lot of self-consciousness around that, like not being smart, not understanding it. So it's like if I didn't have sports, I wouldn't have finished, like got my high school diploma. Like never that. I skipped all the time. Drinking, smoking, partying, not caring about school, but like I literally cared about basketball enough to like go back and do the extra credit, like meet with my teacher through my basketball coach just so I could play.
Right.
That kept me around, and I loved the camaraderie that I had with the kids that I played with. And my whole family was super supportive of us playing sports and like being in school. So that got me through finishing high school. But I mean, by the time like I was a junior and a senior, like selling a lot of drugs, completely engulfed in like selling narcotics by that point, dabbling with like OC 80s, perk 30s. It was always the painkillers for me, like drinking and smoking. And then it was just immediately into like pills, and it was always like downers and painkillers.
So let's just back up a little bit. So what was it like in your home? Like was there substance use at all?
My father was an alcoholic.
Okay.
And that's all I really knew though.
Right.
So I never grew up and thought my dad's an alcoholic.
Right. It was
he
normal.
just drank. That was my dad.
Right.
I loved him just the same like I do today.
Right.
my mother's never done drugs. Great lady, wicked supportive. Like, you know, me and my sister wouldn't have turned out to be where we are today without her.
Right.
So it was pretty normal, but yeah, like my dad's a little crazy, and my parents fought a lot of yelling,
Right.
a lot of pushing matches. Dad doesn't come home now because whatever. There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I do think that shaped things a little bit. You know, like my sister went on to get her master's degree, and she's like a social worker now. Like she has her master's in psychology.
I'm getting my MSW right now.
Word?
Yeah.
So she's a shrink per se.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
like, so she, I think she looks into it more than I do on like what happened to my brother and like me, and that's why she's like helps people now.
Right.
But I don't ever like to blame it on that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't ever think that anything that my mother or father did in my childhood made me be a drug addict.
Yeah, no.
I don't feel that way. I feel like anyone can be, any walk of life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I grew up in a household where my parents were together. I had supporting grandparents, all family.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we didn't want for anything. We had everything we ever needed. They gave us the world. Good school system, Bedford. And I wanted to be in Manchester running and gunning and selling drugs and being a gangster. That's what I wanted. And I went and seeked it out and I got all of that. Like it wasn't, first time I ever got arrested, I was 17, had to go to Valley Street. And honestly, I might have put together a solid amount of time before I went back, but I was in and out until I got clean for the last time. Like I did a year straight in Valley at one point. I've done 6 months here, 4 months, 2 months, you name it. Like I've been to a couple different counties, but always getting in trouble. And it was just because like, until I got clean for the first time, my life was a run. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I had a bad bender and then I got back into recovery. Or like I relapsed and lost my time and then I went on a run. Like,
it's like didn't know what recovery was.
No, like my run started when I was a junior in high school.
Right.
And
it just kept going.
The only time my run stopped was being locked up, like spin dry cycle, working out, playing basketball and not getting high because I could not. Like I was behind the walls, you know?
Right.
That was the only time I ever like put together clean time from when I started smoking weed at 12.
Right.
It was that. I personally went to Granite Recovery Centers. So like shout out Granite Recovery Centers.
I was just talking to Jasmine on the way here.
Yeah. And so me and Jasmine have like the same exact clean time because she was on the mountain when I was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. I celebrated 4 years in November.
Congratulations.
So I got just over 4 years. Thank you. And I went to a like continuous care, one of their sober living houses. At the time, it was Queen City Sober Living in Manchester.
Okay. I didn't know Queen City was associated with GRC.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I believe I believe it's still there on Merrimack Street.
Oh.
I'm not sure though.
Oh.
And like, that's where I immediately just like ingratiated myself with hope for New Hampshire recovery.
Is that where did you know Justin?
Coombs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Okay.
we lived together.
Okay.
So I moved into Queen City Sober Living and Justin lived there.
Okay.
That's when we met.
Okay.
Like
I went to rehab with Justin, like back Phoenix
Before
house.
that.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
knew you knew him. Like,
Yeah.
we all know each other. After you've
Yeah.
been around a while in recovery, it's like everybody knows everybody kind of deal.
Yeah.
But, oh yeah, we got super close there. And we ended up both moving to another sober house and lived together at like the next step sober house type of deal. And I stayed wicked close to Hope. Like that was when I first ever saw you or met you. I don't even know if you remember, but like my first 6 months in recovery, I was going to Hope every day for a meeting. And you were new, like you were brand new to recovery at the time too. I remember. And, I would just see you in those meetings. Not like we associated or anything, but like that was my first like introduction to you. And then obviously 4 years later, I see what you're doing, you see what I'm doing. Like we stayed in touch, but like don't know each other personally.
Right.
Yeah. So
So we were on like kind of what happened. You know, you started going to Valley Street.
Oh yeah. I think I'll jump into where it started to turn.
Okay.
I mean, I've used every drug there is. There was nothing I wouldn't do.
So did you get into you got into heroin?
Absolutely.
You got into needles.
Yep.
All that.
I think like a lot of people's stories, the OCs kind of went to OPs. They washed up the whole nine. And it's just cheaper, more readily available, and everyone's doing it, right? So I started doing solely heroin, you know, and like when I got to that point, it was like nothing else mattered. I mean, I've like robbed my parents, sister, brother, grandparents, you name it. Like it just, I had zero morals. Like I didn't have a conscience anymore. It was just selfish, self-seeking. I need what I have to get to not be sick and to just keep the next day rolling into the next day. A lot of stealing, a lot of dealing, you know, highs and lows.
Right.
I think you know how that goes, ups and downs. And so there's a lot of shame and guilt and remorse that comes with all that. And so like, it's hard to get clean because like I could never sober up long enough to stomach the thought of the things that I was doing to the people that actually cared and wanted me to be well. And like, I didn't want to face any of that at all. So like getting locked up was always my bottom. Every time it was my bottom.
I really like the way that you just described it. I could never stay clean long enough to stomach the stuff that I did when I was using.
And I'm running from all that. Like that's all fear. And I want no part of like being uncomfortable, fear, all that. Like I was living in a miserable nightmare, but getting high enough and going hard enough to not deal with reality in any way, shape, or form. You know, like I was just completely dazed for, I'd say from, let's call it 17 to 24 was just that, you know, like I had highs where I thought like I'm dealing and I'm making money and I got things and I'm good. But I was like more addicted than ever. And then my lows where like my addiction might not have been as bad, but I was doing worse things just to get something every day. You know, it was just a roller coaster ride. I had a daughter. My daughter's Giselle. She's 5 now. She's beautiful and healthy, thank God. But me and my then girlfriend had her like in active addiction. Like we were both wicked bad. And so like she was a blessing that she ever came to be.
Just careful your mind.
Oh, that's right. And I think long and short, the way it happened for me, we had Giselle. We were at the hospital. I had a couple different warrants, like a couple different towns, Milford, Bedford, Hooksett, and they grabbed me at the hospital. Like literally my daughter's like a week old maybe. And like, she wasn't going to be able to leave the hospital for like 6 months because she was just premature. And
6 months?
Well, my then girlfriend, my child's mother, was using. So she was born addicted to Subutex because they had prescribed it for her because she was pregnant. But I think when she was born, she tested positive for like heroin and Subutex. So there was a lot of things going on. You know what I mean? And basically they knew I was going to be there, of course. And we had a protection order at the time, of course.
So you're not supposed to be together.
So DCYF immediately is contacted when a child's born positive. And then they're like, oh, Jake Howard, Deanna Costa can't be together. Let's monitor that room. So I got grabbed as soon as I walked in.
So not only did you have warrants, did they get you with new charges too?
They didn't.
Okay.
They didn't push it because it's like they had me like dead to rights. They weren't worried about like a protection order or whatever it was. I did a year from that day forward.
Wow.
Didn't see my daughter, gone. You know what I mean? Like sentenced to a year, see you later. I have a newborn kid at home. Don't really know like how it was going to go or what was going to happen. Like my mother was standing there in the hospital room with my child's mother and I got ushered away.
Wow.
And I do remember at times, and we always say it, but I would like tell family on the phone and in letters and like my child's mother, like, I'm never going to be taken away from Giselle again.
I'll do whatever it takes.
I'm never going to do this again. Like I want to be there for my daughter. And I meant it wholeheartedly because I was also sober in there, like thinking, and I had a lot of time. Like I had a year straight to get my stuff together. You know? Fast forward, when I maxed that out and came home.
So you did a full year. You didn't do a county year.
A county year.
Okay, so you did 8 months.
I did 8 months.
Okay.
got out on 2 years probation.
Okay.
Of course. Came home, my daughter's 8, like literally people waiting in the parking lot got high when I walked out the doors. Grabbed a hotel room.
You had it planned.
Oh, absolutely. Literally like stashing money on my books, waiting for my like check from like the Manchester Police Department that they seized that they couldn't prove was illegal funds.
When did it turn from writing letters that I'm going to do whatever it takes
The reality of freedom.
started to come around?
Like, I can do whatever I want. I'm going home. I just did 8 months. I deserve this.
So
Delusionally telling myself.
towards your release
The closer
date,
I got, of course I had all these hopes and dreams of what I wanted to do.
But the closer you got, you started.
But what work
planning.
did I do in that 8 months?
Right, exactly.
Did I find recovery?
You didn't have any solution.
I had zero solution.
Right.
So I did what I knew, what was easy, what was comfortable, what I knew best. I'm like,
Right.
I'm going to get out and have all this money. I'm going to grab a hotel room.
Right.
And for 4 days, it's going to be nothing but.
Right.
And that's exactly what kicked off my 4 months of freedom when I got out.
Right.
It was a 4-month run and I went back. The only reason I lasted 4 months, probation thought that I was sentenced to 12 because I was doing 2
they thought you were in there
consecutive
still.
county years. So I didn't have to check in with a probation officer for that 4 months.
Because they thought you were still locked up.
Exactly. So they had no, like, they were like, oh, he's still an inmate. He has a number, a CCN number still.
Right.
And I was out there. First time I checked in, I had already been arrested once, lied and got through and bailed out. And they were like, yep, went back. The house got like not raided per se, but swarmed, surrounded. Giselle was in there. They took me. I went back. I did 4 months before the opportunity, thank God, presented itself to go. It was basically, we're gonna terminate your 2 years probation and you're gonna go to Concord for the 2 years. And you're just gonna get hit with this 2 years. Like, we're not gonna deal with you on probation because there is like, you just run, you don't check in, you do whatever you want, you're still running amok. Or we'll give you like a one-shot deal where you go get treatment, we suspend all charges, we suspend the cases, we just put everything on the back nine and give you a chance to like do something.
Right.
And Green Mountain was still kind of new. Like, it had just kind of opened. I don't know if you know Matt Davis, but shout out to Matt Davis.
I don't think I do.
At the time, he was running like the old, what used to be the Manchester Police Department. And it was like respite, serenity mix. It was like kind of like this thing they were running. Yeah. They were like running a little like
I remember.
hybrid center there
I remember.
daily.
Yeah.
And I literally walked in and he knew my younger brother. So he heard my last name and he was like, you have a brother named Luke Howard? I said, I do. And he's like, I'm going to help you because I used to work with your brother and I used to get high with your brother. And I know Lincoln, which is my nephew, my brother's son. And I was like, I get lucky everywhere I go. Like, thank God. You know what I mean? I was like, this is going to work in my favor because I got to go somewhere. And he, like, legitimately, he made a phone call. He's like, they can come pick you up right now. I'm like, oh, no. And I like milked 3 or 4 days of doing what I wanted, of course, and running and gunning. But 3 or 4 days later, like, I went up to Green Mountain and I have never used again. I have never drank. I've never smoked weed. I'm in recovery. Like, you'll never hear me use the word sobriety because I don't say like I'm sober or I'm in sobriety. Like, I consider myself now recovered.
Right.
And that doesn't mean I don't like struggle.
Right.
Like, trust and believe, like, life is life, you know?
So you found the solution in the halls at AA.
Absolutely. I think I was introduced to the solution on the mountain. Going through the first 3, like the big book, the first 3 steps, saying the 3rd step prayer, and like legitimately having my first spiritual awakening and hearing people talk that I related to and they had what I wanted. 100% had what I wanted. I was like I looked at some of the guys that worked there and I was like, these guys still like have an ego. Like, they still carry themselves like the way that I would like to or want to. I didn't look, I guess I like judgmental back then, like still like super like delusional. Like, I didn't look at them as like nerds because they were clean and sober. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't like they're losers. Like these guys had cars. I want things back. Like they have a job. They're wearing Jordans.
Right.
Like they dress nice.
Right.
Like maybe there's an avenue here. Like maybe
Right.
there's a lane that I can follow. And I actually see a small little path. I don't know how I could do it.
Right.
I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if they tell me all I need to do is listen, stay teachable, humble, surrender. Like I was so stubborn on the mountain that I was like, I'm going to do everything you tell me to do just to show you that it's not going to work for me. Like I'm different.
Right.
I'm so different.
And that's your ego.
Exactly. Oh yeah. And I was like, you don't understand me.
Right.
Like, you're not going to understand how like
I'm the
my
chosen
story
one.
works.
I can't be fixed.
And I thought I was like too cool for recovery. I'm like, no, you don't know how many drugs I've sold. Like you don't know how much I've done, you know?
Right.
So in the like that early stage of like, I'm going to do it just to spite them.
Right.
I'm going to do them to show that like I'll go right back as if that's going to hurt them.
Right.
As if that's not going to hurt me and my family again and run me down the same road. But I just had an experience there on the mountain where like it changed from like, I'm just doing this because I don't have anything else to do. I have to be here. I don't want to go to prison, all that, to like, this feels good.
Something's working.
Like for the first time in my life, like I have a little bit of faith, like a little bit of hope, just a little bit. But still extremely filled with fear. Like fear's the biggest thing. Cause like, I didn't know how I was going to, like what I would do for work, how I would like support my daughter, like how I would show up and actually be a man. And I was fearful of all those things. But you just have to have faith, honestly. Like, and when you work a program that has like spirituality, if you want to call it, like I try to remain spiritually fit.
So, today, tell us what your program looks like. Because I know like 4 years down the line, it looks a lot different.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Today, so it's like nobody's perfect, right? Like I didn't get to 4 years by like calling my sponsor every day.
Going to a meeting every day.
Going to a meeting every day. Like
right.
I think the most important thing as like time goes on is you have to keep it real for you. I've lost a lot of people. My younger brother passed away of an overdose. I was 4 months clean, just home from Green Mountain for the most part. I lost Giselle's mother. I lost an uncle just recently. And just when you've been in recovery as long as we have, let's be real, like, can we count or even like the amount of people we lose every Facebook post, every time something happens? The more meetings you've been to, the longer you've been in the halls, the more people you know that and that's part of recovery. And that keeps it real every time.
I remember I heard someone say I had to step over a lot of bodies to get this much clean time. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, and like now I know exactly what they're talking about. I think for me, like my biggest reason why I can do what I do today is like, I consider myself recovered. All the work that I did through Granite Recovery Centers, I don't have the mental obsession anymore. I don't ever think that I need a drink or a drug. I don't think about it and I don't want it. But what I do to keep myself fit and like, I try to become a better person. I don't even look at like the drugs and alcohol addiction anymore. I think, how am I growing? How am I showing up for the people around me? Am I being productive? And like, I can call myself on my own bullshit. If I can't, I keep solid people around me that do.
That will. So do you like have a traditional program? Like, do you go to AA? Do you work a sponsor? I mean, with
prayer
a sponsor?
and meditation.
Okay.
I lack on it sometimes, but I always get back to it.
Right.
Because it's important to me. Praying, faith, just knowing that like he got me to where I am today.
Yeah.
As long as I don't pick up a drink or a drug, I know it gets better. But I got to put in the action, and I just have faith. And I had a sponsor for a long time. I'd be lying if I say I had one right now. So I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Good.
So I don't have a sponsor anymore. And I have not been to a meeting since COVID started. because
Okay.
they're all Zoom
Okay.
and online and all
That's
that.
honest.
And I'm just not really with that.
Mhm.
It could be an excuse, maybe it is,
Mhm.
but I just have like refused to like do Zoom or Skype and like be on my phone in my bedroom in a meeting.
I get it.
But honestly, up until COVID, I'd always go to, it sucks because it's like, recovery's community.
Right.
And like people getting together and we do our rallies and we do functions.
And we go to dinner together and we get coffee
and
and all
so
those
I
things.
was always into that. Like if anything went
Yeah.
on at Hope, I was there.
Yeah.
I put on like the recovery basketball tournament for my brother with
Yep.
Hope.
Yep.
We are going to do another one. COVID has that kind of up in the air right now, but I
Mhm.
am planning on doing the second annual.
Mhm.
And like the sober softball tournaments, like
Mhm.
everything, like I stay involved as much as I possibly can.
Mhm.
And I think 2020 has been such a bad year because we lack that in
Yeah.
recovery. We've
Yeah.
lost so many people. I mean, even to like celebrities and the whole nine, like there was just a lot of death in 2020.
I know.
And it's not easy, but
Mhm.
you have to use that
Mhm.
and stay on the right side of things and
Mhm.
use that as encouragement and like
Right.
power.
Right. So you keep good people around you that call you on your stuff.
Oh yeah.
Prayer and meditation. You have a relationship with your higher power.
Yeah.
Do you do like any nightly stuff
Nope.
or step work kind of stuff?
I like to pray at night.
You pray at
I like
night.
to touch base.
And
I
do you
pray-
have, so is your daughter back in your, like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, do you have her full time?
I don't have her full time.
Okay.
I split time with her grandparents.
Okay.
Because her mother passed. So
Yeah.
I have a great relationship with her grandparents.
Yeah.
And there is no like agreement. It's just like I have her, they have her. I can pick her up when I
That's
want her and drop her off
awesome.
because I work so much and full
Yeah.
time. I got a busy work schedule. All of my family is in my life, and they're the reason why I got 4+ years.
Mhm.
I have a great relationship: mom, dad, sister,
Mhm.
extended family,
Yeah.
and that's a big part of my recovery.
Mhm.
They're supportive.
Right.
So
And you work a lot, so
yeah,
is that
to say
a
the
healthy
least.
environment?
For me, yeah,
Yeah.
it keeps me busy, motivated, driven.
Yeah.
I like working hard and seeing like the payoff.
Yeah.
So it always keeps me driven. I
Mm.
always have a purpose,
Mm.
because I got to go to work. Like I got to get stuff done.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Is there anything else that you want to say? I mean, we've had quite the story.
If you're struggling, reach out. Like I always try to show that, like, be a power of example. Like if I am sitting here today and I'm sober, I know for a fact that anyone can do it. And I got countless people that have done it too and like know what the solution is and know what recovery is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank
it was
you for
awesome
having
to hear
me.
your story.
Yeah.
And thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.